Yeah, so like she said, I'm Julie Sacco Smith. So I am a licensed realtor with Keller Williams Realty West. And I've been licensed for a few years, and I mainly help first-time home buyers, but my husband and I got into investing about a year and a half ago. So prior to this flip, we had completed a full BRRRR deal in Florissant, and we house hacked a duplex in O'Fallon that we still own, and have not fully BRRR'd yet, just because we got owner occupied financing and we really don't want to let that interest rate go yet. But so yeah, raised those rents and renovated those units. But this was our first full flip, full like pretty much gut rehab. So I'm going to show you the beginning photos just to kind of start off so you guys know what I was working with. So one day my husband and I, we made a list of properties that were on the market just to go tour and practice running numbers on. We toured like 6 or 7 houses this day, and when we saw this house in Florissant, it's on a cul-de-sac kind of in our little buy box. We had never done anything like this before. It needed a ton of landscaping. I mean, the backyard was literally a jungle. You couldn't even see the fence, but there's a fence back there. I don't know. Really outdated, tons of different kinds of flooring. Obviously this whole kitchen, we had never gutted a full kitchen before. We had only painted cabinets and gotten new countertops. So this was quite the challenge in here, but definitely saw the value. I mean, it's a little over 1,300 square feet. And then all the bedrooms had hardwood floors. So we loved that because our intent was to keep those. It's got a dual closet in the master. We're like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. Bathrooms were full gut. Carpets were disgusting. But the thing that we liked about this house was the size, and most of the systems were in good shape still. So this living room is huge and very narrow, but very cut off from the kitchen and like dining room area. So when we were walking through, we were kind of tapping the walls to see if that would be something that we could break open. So that was our intent, was to open that wall right there and make it more of an open feel. And the basement's nothing fancy at all, but a basement nonetheless. And no major foundation issues, updated HVAC, kind of our perfect buy. So yeah, single car garage. So we got into it. So like I said, I found it on the MLS, and it was actually listed with an agent in my office. So I had reached out to her and talked to her about the house before. Out of the 7 that we toured that day, this one was by far like our favorite. And so there was an offer deadline on this house. So we knew that there were already a few offers, but the deadline had kind of passed, and I hurried up in like 15 minutes and wrote an offer at asking, just to throw it out there, just to see what happens. And sure enough, she messaged me like a few hours later and was like, hey, you got it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh my gosh. So our intent here was to actually rent this property, was to BRRRR this one. So we were just going to keep the same, the hardwood floors and just go over that linoleum and stuff. But like I said, it was 1,300 square feet. We bought it at asking, so 129. But since I'm an agent, I was able to use some of my commissions. And so basically after I deducted my commissions, we were at 125,517. So that's pretty much like the purchase price. And FasterFunds had come out and agreed with us that our rehab was going to be about $25,000. And we agreed on a $190,000 ARV initially. So this is what we actually spent. And so a lot of the things, the one thing that makes my husband and I and like our team different is we do a lot of the work ourselves. So we did everything that we could. This was over this winter, so I bought it in November. And because I'm in real estate, the winter months are a little slow, so we knew that I would be able to kind of participate in this. And my husband was doing this full time with a contractor every day for a few months. So this is kind of why we were able to keep our rehab costs a little on the lower side. But so yeah, here clean out, it was $0. Luckily we had access to a commercial dump, so we took all of the cabinets there. The flooring we got from Floor Decor and More. I literally stole this flooring off their website. I was on clearance. And we did lay it ourselves, so there wasn't any labor involved necessarily. So we did end up LVPing over all the floors once we decided to flip it. Spent a lot of money on paint and drywall. The exterior, we really didn't have to do anything other than paint the brick in the front to kind of give it a little bit more clean look. Bathrooms, we spent a little over $4,000 on. The basement, we didn't really have to touch much. We just mopped it, cleaned it heavily, and painted those walls. Obviously, the kitchen is where you dump most of the money in. So we got a really great discount on cabinets at Home Depot. 5-star granite, helped us out with countertops and appliances as well. And so once we decided to flip it, we were able to kind of put funds elsewhere instead of having to buy, a $2,000 fridge for a rental. We were able to put that money in something else for the flip. So just to kind of keep that in mind. HVAC, like I said, was brand new, so we didn't have to touch that, along with roof and gutters and windows. Part of the reason we like this house so much was because it didn't take anything major like that. Except when you get into electrical and plumbing, this was by far our biggest struggle was electrical, just to get the house to pass occupancy and to pass inspections. We had to do a lot of electrical work in the house. Every outlet needed to be rewired almost. It was all like 2-prong. So we made a lot of the outlets 3-prong, grounded, and then every bathroom and kitchen needed all new wiring. So plumbing we completely underestimated as well. There were no shutoff valves on any plumbing fixtures. So we ended up spending about $4,200 in just generic plumbing. And then the sewer. So we also, during our inspection phase for this house, we actually did scope the sewer lateral line, and we realized that the main line needed to be completely replaced. So even though we bought it as is, we were able to negotiate a very hefty $6,700 credit for sewer lateral repairs. What we didn't know was that the supplemental line also needed to be replaced. So that cost us an additional $1,900 that we did not plan for. So plumbing was a huge chunk of our rehab that we did not expect. I think we originally budgeted like $2,500 for plumbing. So that one kind of had to move things around. Other than that, like baseboards, light fixtures, knobs, doorknobs, all that kind of stuff. That was about $4,000 as well. And then just some other things, the deck, we just power washed and painted and staged it. So that is the rehab budget there. Oop. Some interesting parts of the journey, things that we would tell some people going through the process, the HOA rental guidelines. Like I said, our goal was to actually rent this property. What we discovered during due diligence was Wedgwood, which is where this property was at, changed their whole HOA rules the year before to eliminating rentals. So when we found that out, we were faced with, do we flip it or do we let this deal go? And so we decided to just go in for our first flip. So definitely that was a little curveball. I thought in Florissant, every neighborhood you can rent in. Well, that's not quite true. So pay attention to that. And then supplemental sewer lateral lines. No clue that when they're getting your sewer scoped, they're not scoping supplemental lines. I've sold so many houses. I think I've been to over 70 home inspections. Never has this been an issue until my turn to flip a house and this popped up. So I know a lot of flippers struggle with the idea of scoping the lines or not. Ignorance is bliss. If you don't know about it, you don't have to disclose it. I'm so glad though that we did. Otherwise I would have been extremely upset once we got the house to find out that the sewer lateral repair would have cost me over $9,000. So I would highly suggest when you're flipping, scoping it so that you know the price up front. That would be my suggestion. But another thing was that the electrical and the plumbing bids were just so much higher than we anticipated. So that was another little curveball. And dealing with St. Louis County's permitting process put us through the ringer. Definitely some rookies over here, and they're not quite conducive to people that are trying to invest money over there, especially if you're new. So you will learn, and they're not going to help you learn. So this is what the house looked like when we were all done with it. So I'm going to take you to the after photos now. I mean, night and day. I mean, the whole front, like I said, painted the whole front, garage door, the tin siding right in the front by the front door, and the brick was all painted. The house had already had brown gutters, so we just stuck with that cream and brown theme. It helped that it was winter, and so the grass was all kind of dead anyway. But so yeah, we painted those beams as well to stick to the brown tones. And so that's what the outside of the house looked when we were done. Lots of landscaping and just cleaning it up. We had a lot of our parents help us with doing the landscaping, which was really great. So yeah, then as you come inside, just neutrally painted, you can tell that we opened up that wall right there, which really I think that really sold the house, honestly. And these photos make that cedar opening look very orange. It was actually a much more neutral tone, so it really complemented the floor. It didn't it didn't look bad. But I mean, those photos don't really make it look like it matches, but it really complemented each other. Can lighting as well. I think in these older houses, the lighting is just very dark. And so you can kind of see that front window all the way to the right, when we had people coming to the open house and they were walking up to the house, they could actually see straight through that front window all the way to the back of the house. And I think that was another selling point as well, just making it feel very open. Yeah, luxury vinyl plank all the way through. I mean, there's not really anything in this house that we didn't touch other than like the major systems. Lots of paint and just taking what was old and making it new. All the doors we kept, but I think statement light fixtures was a big thing as well. And it's an inexpensive way to kind of step up the property. We had a lot of compliments on that little rattan one over the sink, which is I bought off Facebook Marketplace for $20. I mean, but that people were obsessed with it. I was too. But so yeah, the kitchen, just stepping it up from what it was, obviously complete transformation. So yeah, this is what it looked like. This is the master. It had that pink ugly carpet in there that was the dirtiest ever. All new light fixtures. Tiled the showers ourselves. That was a fun little project that lasted weeks, but got it done. Let's see. Yeah, this is the hall bath right here. And 3 bedrooms upstairs. And again, we really didn't touch the basement, but this is the backyard now. Like, remember all that brush? We pretty much took everything out of there. And cleaned it all up, and there were little hidden gems underneath. There was a lot of like little stones and bricks and stuff, so we power washed those, and you can't really tell, but we made like a little like fireplace area with like a little walking trail, and it made people feel like they could envision using the backyard. So I think that was a nice little touch, just to add a little cherry on top. But yeah, that is what it looked like after we were done. So here's how we did in terms of final numbers. So our final rehab costs, we ended up spending a little over $29,000 on the rehab. This is materials, paying people to help us on things that we couldn't take care of, plumbing, electric, all the above. Other holding costs would be, we paid about $2,200 in holding. It took us about 3 months to knock this one out of the park. And origination fee as well on the back end. So that's at 3%. And then so pretty much all in 37,500 pretty much is what it took to transform this house in that amount of time. Despite what Rachel thought, we did go ahead and list it at 200,000. She was like, oh, I don't think you should do that. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. And we ended up, after a few days on the market, we didn't get multiple offers like everybody thought we would. But we did end up getting an offer for 210,000 as is. And I think the big thing here was that we were willing to provide the occupancy, and that we had done a clean rehab, and we fixed the whole sewer lateral line. Obviously that's everybody's main concern in Florissant, and we had proof. We posted the video of the repair when it was done, so buyers could see, hey, this sewer lateral line is clear and lined and ready to go. And I think that was a big deal for us to be able to get an as-is offer over asking. And this was not even a multiple offer situation. They just offered 10,000 over. And so obviously signed on that dotted line. So with that sale price, and then that closed out on March 31st, and we bought it on November 17th. So just to give you a little timeline, it took us about 3.5 months to close out the deal, I guess. Yeah. So after it sold for 210,000, we, again, we bought it for the 125.5 after my commissions. We spent about 29,000 on the rehab, and then $6,700 in holding and loan fees and stuff like that. And then we did pay a buyer's agent. I didn't take a fee on the sale when I listed it myself. So we walked away with about $43,500 on our first flip pre-tax. So, we owe taxes on that. So that's not quite exactly what we take home, but that is, a good idea of what our first flip made for us in just 3 short months. So I wanted to show just a few little before and afters, just some comparison photos. And a lot of this stuff, again, we did ourselves. Now, luckily, my husband was doing this mainly full time. So he put 5 to 6 days a week at this property for a few months to be able to generate that. Now, we probably would have made a little bit less. We definitely would have made a little bit less had we hired out contractors and stuff like that and not done it ourselves. But I'm really glad we did, and I'll get into that in just a second. But obviously, just stepping up the curb appeal. Every buyer is looking at photos online before they go see houses. So better make sure your photos are good, and the house is even better. Yeah, and so the backyard completely transformed that, cut lots of trees down. I have a ton of firewood, but yeah, so total transformation there. This was that living room that we opened up. And this is where the permitting process with St. Louis County was a real pain in the rear end. But once you can jump that hurdle and you can make this happen, I'm so glad we opened it up. There's no way we would have sold it for what we did if we didn't make this feel open, because that's the trend. And it let a lot more natural light into the house as well. So this is probably my favorite room. But because it was so long and narrow, Rachel helped come over, and she agreed as well that it definitely needed to be staged so that people knew how to set up their furniture in such a long, narrow living room. So I think that's important too when you've got funky shaped rooms. Here's the bathrooms that we did. Tried to keep similar themes in both bathrooms, but make them unique in their own way. The left side is the master, and then the right side is the hall bath. Kept that cast iron tub because that's not going anywhere. So we just sprayed that. Yeah, new vanities, all new plumbing, all new everything almost in these bathrooms except for that tub. And then, of course, where all the money matters in the kitchen, light and bright and neutral. People can kind of take this whatever direction they want. The backsplash as well was a nice little touch. I know some people don't always do that on rehabs, but I did on this one because I think it kind of classed it up a little bit. But yeah, there's the kitchen there. And so some lessons learned that I took away from this property in doing my first flip. Definitely check in the HOA restrictions. This one, what we did decide to flip it, thank God. But if it would have been a rental, or we would have renovated it to a rental standard, we probably wouldn't have been able to sell it for as much if we wouldn't have found out about that sooner. So definitely always check your HOA restrictions. That's mainly for rentals, but when you start flipping, eventually you're probably going to want to keep some for yourself as a rental one day. So that would be my real estate advice, and also fellow investor advice. And then the other big thing for us was building relationships with contractors. We had friends of ours that were, was a plumber. We had a guy that helped us get started on the flooring, family that came and helped us with landscaping, building that community around you so that you can succeed faster and learn more. We wouldn't have been able to do it without our friends and family that offered help. And, we did pay some of the people as well for their specialties, but pennies on the dollar compared to what it would have charged, what it would have costed us to hire contractors. So that was huge for us, is, getting help. And like I said, if it's your first one, I'm glad we did it this way, is that we did what we could. And we saved a lot of money doing what we could by ourselves. And I think even as an agent as well, it gives you an appreciation of what really goes into a flip done right. I show a lot of houses that are flips, and it's so easy for me to see the corners that people cut. And so it helps me relay to my buyers, or, even when I'm selling a house, this house is worth this much. They went the extra mile to do repairs and renovations the right way. And it definitely gives you an idea of what you're paying contractors to do in the future. You don't want to do it ever again, then be willing to pay for somebody the next time, which I am. And then another thing would be, luckily I am a real estate agent, but even if a friend, you have somebody that's in the investment world as well, not every residential agent is going to be able to accurately help you with ARVs. So make sure you have a trusted agent, not just me, but there's a lot of Magnolia agents too that work with investors and know what they're talking about. So you definitely need to link up with somebody that can help you market and list the house at the right price to get you the right buyer. I think that's huge. And then for my last few things is just going for it. I had a little bit of limited beliefs. I'm 25, and I'm already busy with my real estate business, my retail stuff. And I had people tell me, you're going to flip a whole house. You can't do that. What if you don't make enough money? What if all this stuff? I just say, like, screw the limited beliefs. The offer on this house, I wrote up in 15 minutes. I sent it on a whim, and we got it. And it made us over $40,000, on the flip. So whatever they say, they were wrong. And then my husband and I always tell each other, scared money doesn't make money. Now, neither just stupid money, but I think, if you do your homework and you can tell that this is a good deal on the back end, you'll never make money flipping houses if you never get one. So that's kind of my perspective of, I'm so glad we just went for it and took that leap of faith. And now we have that experience. And so we know moving forward, when it's a cosmetic rehab, it feels like a breeze, and a lot of the things we know how to do, so we can help not cut corners, but save ourselves some money by just running over there and fixing X, Y, or Z, rather than having to hire a contractor. But it also understanding what you don't want to do again in the future, and hiring people that will do it better than yourself and much faster. So that would be my advice. And that's pretty much it in terms of my case study for my very first flip. And I don't think it'll be my last flip, but definitely a great experience. 10 out of 10. It was a lot of work, but I would do it all over again. No questions about it. So that's it. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me, but that's my flip story. Yeah.
That is awesome, Julie. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I was like on maternity leave most of the time you were doing this property, so I heard a lot about it, but I didn't know some of the hurdles that you jumped through. Do you mind, before we get into questions, taking us off screen share?
Oh yeah,
So
no.
we can all like see each other again.
No, thank you. Yes.
So I wrote down a couple questions, but does anyone else have any questions or comments or thoughts?
Oh, I do if no one else does.
Go for it, Bob.
Hi, first, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing your story. Rachel has seen me bumping around for probably 2 years, and I'm finally going to get off the sidelines. I really want to find my first place. So I was really glad to see that this was your first flip. You had a little other experience behind you, but it's still the first flip. What I wanted to comment on, and maybe there would be other folks that would want to weigh in. You had a lot of great things going for you on this, with having your husband have the spare time to be able to invest so much in it, being able to work with relationships and contractors you had to get things done at lower prices and all. For myself, I'm going to have a full-time job. I'll be paying for everything. I'm going to be hiring someone to do everything. So just a passing comment, for me, it's going to be a matter of buying at the right price. I have to be able to properly go in and figure out what my costs are going to be, not based on sweat equity. It's really going to be based on me paying for everything. But there's something else to that. When you got to the end, you were saying that maybe you would do less next time, and sure, you would have a little higher cost for doing that. But I would also say that on the other side of the balance sheet, your holding costs should be lower. So I'm kind of figuring that for myself is, yes, I'm going to have to pay to have all that done, but it's also going to get done much quicker. On a funny note, you had mentioned that shower, which, by the way, the tub shower looked fantastic.
Thanks.
You said it took weeks. And I thought, hire somebody, they'll come in and do it in a day or two.
Right.
So there's a cost for money for all of that. What kind of comments would you or anyone else on the call have on that?
Well, real quick though, and I agree with you. And I think at the time we were just looking to fill that void for our winter. And I wanted to have a project going, and he was in between jobs. His experience in the past was in the NFL. So, we were, not with a team at that time. So there was a huge gap, and we're like, let's fill it with some experience. We were hoping it to be a rental. But it's all about getting a deeper discount. We probably wouldn't have been able to offer asking if we would have had our rehab number would have been completely different. And I think it was even higher even than we had anticipated, because we did have to hire help. We couldn't do all the stuff, on our own. But I think moving forward, we're having to buy properties now at a deeper discount to cover that contractor fee. But you're right, it'll take much less time. They'll probably do the job better than we ever could have, and it'll get done much, much faster. So hopefully in turn, we would do more deals. So yes, this was just getting our hands, getting our elbows a little dirty, but I'm glad that we did it that way, just at least for this first one while we had the time. So we know what it goes into a full rehab. We've done little cosmetic stuff here and there, but this was like, okay, a full gut for us.
Being an agent, you're able to scour the MLS, whereas most of us would want to go to a wholesaler. Of course, there's a little company with Faster Deals, I think they're called.
Yeah,
that has wholesale properties available. It's a great,
yeah,
it's a great way to get in, is to save money on the front end and buy a wholesale property. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And we were just, bored, and we didn't expect to get this property at all either. Like I said, they had multiple offers on the house, and we got it at asking. And I think it might go into having relationships with agents, but also, having FasterFunds back us and be able to close quickly and make our offer look like cash, I think was also another big deal why we got it. So there's deals on the MLS, for sure. It's just hard to find.
Yeah, Julie, I loved that you talked about buying a deal on the MLS. I will tell you, for the last several years, we've done hardly anything with an MLS listing. And for the last, 5-6 months, we've been seeing more and more deals come through on the MLS. And I love what you said about how, you paid full asking, But as an agent, you were able to leverage then your commission,
Yeah.
which then affects your purchase price and makes it lower, which is a really great tool if you're a real estate agent. So I think that's a really cool benefit of having your license and being an involved agent.
Yeah.
I was curious, when did you learn during the project that you couldn't keep it as a rental and you had to make it a flip?
Yeah. So we got the property under contract, and our intent was to keep it as a BRRRR, like do a BRRRR deal on it. And that's why our ARV and our rehab was a little bit more conservative, because we weren't going to do everything. We were going to keep the hardwood floors. We were going to maybe go with cheaper appliances, and maybe, not quite the full scale kitchen, do a rental, not necessarily a flip. Because we definitely had to tweak our rehab budget to make it more of a market ready property for flipping, and doing something very unique to make it stand out on the MLS. But we had done inspections, and I'd already negotiated that sewer lateral repair. And I mean, again, I got it on multiple offers, information only inspections, and I still was able to negotiate like a over $6,000 credit. So then when I'd found out, they had Wedgwood's HOA had slapped a sign on the door, literally taped a piece of paper that said notice on our front door. I don't know how they knew that we were rehabbing it, but they did, and put a notice on the door. And I had found out, I think like a day before then, that I couldn't rent in that neighborhood anymore. And so we were juggling with the idea of whether we were going to let this deal go and back out and get our earnest money back, or if we were just going to full steam ahead and flip it. And the listing agent was really sweet. She had no idea either that they had changed the rules the year before. They changed the rules. I bought it in November 2022, and they had changed the rules beginning of 2022. So not every listing that I was looking at had the HOA docs pulled up or listed. And then after a year, of course, the documents fall off on the MLS. So I didn't know until that point. So I think it was probably a week into the transaction. And then we decided to just go ahead and close on it as a first flip. So yeah, about a week. So, but didn't really change our numbers necessarily. And we were going to do the rehab anyway. So it was just our exit strategy, just changing that. And, couple, $25,000 sounded really good at that time. So we just decided to go for it, and I'm glad we did, because we made a lot more than that.
Yeah, the market definitely helped with your listing time, which was great.
Yes.
And I think it's a good reminder to people too that sometimes weird HOA stuff comes up or other things come up, which is why I feel like it's always good to remember to have multiple exit strategies, because life happens, stuff happens. So just remembering that when you're buying a deal and making sure that you're buying it deep enough where you have options, so that you're not like, oh crap. And for you, it was nice that you found out before you started rehabbing. I know sometimes people don't figure out stuff like that until they're halfway through, and then they're like, oh shoot, you would have picked different finishes or done things differently. So you found out at a great time.
Yeah. And I had time to back out. I mean, we could have walked from it, but we, wanted to get the experience, and we wanted a deal. We wanted something to work on. And so we just decided, let's just go for it. Let's just do it, So that was our kind of mindset, just eager to get our hands dirty, I guess.
And then for occupancy, did they make you put in 3-prong outlets, or did you, from a flip perspective, want to do some 3-prong outlets instead of 2-prong?
Well, I did not want to do occupancy necessarily, but I also wanted, and I knew the way the market was, we were getting early to spring, nothing on the market looked like this house, and I wanted offers that were really strong. So I knew if I would offer occupancy, because I do it for my clients, if they offer occupancy and it's a flip, well, then everything's up to code and everything's done right, sort of, for the most part. But so I decided, okay, well, I'll have that done prior to closing. Well, of course, we pulled all the permits for the building and, building permits to open that wall, plumbing, and it was an integrated permit with the plumber and the electricians. And of course, then the occupancy guy comes out and all this stuff goes wrong, regarding electrical. And because they were 2-prong and my electrician had done something unique where he like pigtailed, and I don't know all the right verbiage, but to make it a 3-prong, it was done right, but the occupancy guy just didn't know that. And then of course the exterior outlets were not GFIs. So he had to come back and fix that. And so there's just a few other things that we had to do to get it to pass occupancy. But yeah, you're right, Joe, it's not required, but he had installed 3 prongs in the outlets, like inside the house. And when the occupancy guy plugged his little thing in, it was only showing a 2-prong, but it was really 3-prong done the right way. He just wasn't familiar with the technique, I guess my electrician had done. So called him, smoothed it over, everything was fine, but there were still a few other repairs. But all those trips back and forth, my electrician was great and very helpful, but that stuff does add up, so yeah.
Yeah, I think 3-prongs are nice from a resale perspective. Like you probably see your clients from a retail side wanting 3-prongs.
Yeah.
I will say I've done rehabs in, I would say, like cheaper parts of town, like back when Maplewood wasn't as crazy as it is now. I had like a little house and I kept everything 2-prong except for what I had to do for GFCI. So I think it's sometimes just important to consider that when you're looking at your scope, because when you do the conversion, you do spend more on electrical, but the caveat is it's more desirable to end buyers.
Yeah.
So just
we
through
didn't do
that.
every room that, we didn't do every single room, but like the main living room and the master, we wanted those to have the 3-prong just because that's who was probably going to spend the most time in the house. So wasn't every outlet that was 3-prong, but we did get dinged on that. And we had Weiss Electrical come and do all this stuff, who's in my B&I group, and he's awesome and very fair priced. So yeah.
Good. I like that you have a good electrician. I feel like a lot of people are always looking for good electricians. So
Yeah.
that's good to know that Weiss Electric is good.
Yeah, definitely great. And very fair price. There's a lot of electricians that will charge you for all that kind of stuff. And he was fantastic to work with, and he handles all my electrical needs at all my other rentals and stuff like that. So, but yeah, definitely finding good plumbers and good electricians to help us out was huge. So, yeah.
Anyone else have any questions for Julie? Or just questions in general? We have like 10-ish minutes left, 15 minutes.
I was just, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead,
No.
Latasha.
A wonderful job. I think I saw your house a while back. I don't know if it was if I looked it up or whatever, but I saw that before. Wonderful job. But I was just going to say, I think it's becoming common where you're not able to sell, you're not able to rent anymore in a lot of municipalities. And
Yep.
it's just coming up the last few years. So, because we have a home and we have a condo that you cannot rent. They told us up front, no renting, you have to sell it. So
Yeah.
luckily we have it. So we have a buyer just waiting for everything to go through St. Louis County inspections.
Mm.
Oh my, listen, we had a whole deck built and had to tear it down and get it rebuilt.
My gosh. See,
It's just a mess.
yeah, they make it hard for you to kind of invest your money in there, but they're also trying to protect the homeowners that actually occupy their houses in
Yeah,
that area. Because there are hedge funds coming in, buying up these properties,
yeah,
renting houses that are not rentable for that price point and
right.
inflating the market. And so I understand that some HOAs are going to do that, and that's fine. It's just, I wish I would have known about that beforehand. And now that I had a personal experience, I'm definitely going to be more careful about it. But, I understand that it makes sense,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also my if that would have been a rental property, it would have been a really, really good rental property, and it would have boosted the area. It wouldn't have been like that, but so it's a good point though. We got to watch out for that.
Yeah, but definitely I'm learning a lot of lessons with this particular condo. And it's
Nice.
making me wonder if I ever want to purchase another unincorporated St. Louis County, or will I be a pro by the time I'm done with this condo? It's gonna be either or. So, but good job. Thank you.
Yeah, in their permitting process, now that I've been through it, it's not as bad as it seems, but when you go in completely blinded, it was very overwhelming. And then to get help was tough. But once now I feel like I could do anything in St. Louis County. I know who to call. My husband, became buddies with the inspector. So I'm like, hey, now I feel like we've got the resources. But if I obviously have a St. Charles County or a St. Louis County house, I mean, all things equal, St. Charles County, just so
St.
I don't have
Charles
to deal
County
with
is
all of it.
easy. That's actually like the best county to rehab it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like, St. Louis County is rough because you have a million municipalities with different requirements, or you have unincorporated, whereas St. Charles County really doesn't require many
Much.
inspections at all, especially depending on where you're at.
Yeah, and I think the big thing goes into occupancy. I mean, if there's no occupancy, then they don't know what, who's doing what to the house. So when you're purchasing in a municipality that requires occupancy, no matter what, whether you're the one that's going to complete it or the buyer is going to complete if they offer completely as is, someone's going to have to fix stuff. So I just wanted to bite that in the bullet and fix whatever it was so that somebody would waive inspections, but still be able to move into the house.
Yeah, I do think that was smart with you getting occupancy and having that be a part of your listing package. Has anyone else done that before? Rick, have you done that with yours? Or do you just wait for occupancy?
Yeah, well, now they usually sell immediately when they're finished. So getting occupancy beforehand is not really so much a thing. If I had time, I would, if it was sitting on the market, I would go ahead and get it. But if you finish it and list it and it sells in 2 days, I don't. Yeah, but I never expect to sell a flip without getting an occupancy permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are unincorporated occupancy permits, are they only good for so long? Because I feel like that used to be a thing, but I don't know if that's still a thing. Like they're only good for so many days, or someone has to move in within a certain period of time.
They
I
all
want to say
they all
90 days.
expire.
They all
Yeah.
expire. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, whether you get it done during due diligence when the buyer's under contract or you do it beforehand, most sale contracts put that responsibility on the seller. So, you're going to do it. And I didn't want to be in a position where there was something wrong and I couldn't get somebody in before closing. So just bit the bullet. And I've noticed too, as a residential agent as well, that houses that offer occupancy, permits that are already done, buyers feel much more comfortable in multiple offer situations, letting go of inspections, simply because they can at least move in. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, it's honestly the first time I've ever heard of it, but I think it is
Really?
smart from if you're hoping to get an as is offer and trying to push that with the multiple offer situation. I think it's smart if people have the time and ability to do that.
Yeah. If you got the ability, and that way no surprises pop up. I'd rather know.
So how much did Rachel want to list it for?
Rachel, I don't even know she's paying attention.
I'm here.
Okay. Well, when she came over to look at the house, it was not staged. And I think at that time I was thinking like 195-ish. And that's what she was, I think, pointing towards, or at least under 200,000. But I like comfy list numbers. Like most people set searches like up to 200 or, minimum of 200. So I didn't want to miss any buyers at 195 that maybe were looking at 200,000 as a minimum, if that makes sense. So, but Rachel, what did you want to list it at?
Julie and I had the opposite perspective. I didn't want her to miss the people under 200 who were looking. And so I said somewhere between 195, 199, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. And she's like, nope, I'm listing it right at 200.
Well, it was really my husband, who is very strong-willed. And but once I got it staged, I was like, oh yeah, I mean 200,000 all day. In that staging, guys, I mean, I don't know if you saw what I paid for staging, but Carlock LLC hooked me up, and I had so many compliments on the staging, and she did an amazing job to really accent the whole house's feel, so 10 out of 10 on that staging, because I do think that that got me kind of over that little 200 threshold for sure.
Yeah, I think Renee's awesome, and she's cheap and does really good work, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's good
fair.
for what I would call like smaller staging, because
She does
we've
light
used her
staging.
before.
Yeah,
But like a heavier light staging, she's really good at.
Yeah.
But
She
how much
can't-
did she, I'm sorry, how much did she charge? I didn't see it on the,
I want to say, because I was an investor and also a realtor that has already referred her a couple times, she gave me a little discounted rate of a little over $500, I want to say, which was I probably made that in return probably 300%, no doubt. I mean, maybe even more. But she did a lot more than she had even said that she was going to do in her proposal by dressing up all the bathrooms and the kitchen. She threw that in there for free. So she staged the living room and kitchen and dining room for me for about $500, which is, you cannot beat that price in this market. You just cannot. You'll never find it anywhere else. But
I
her
don't know how
staging,
you stay in business doing it for $500.
well, so she has like a lot of her own furniture that she gets secondhand and redoes to make it look trendier. So she has like chairs that she paint, black, and then really makes it fit the vibe of the house. So I'm not sure how much inventory she has, but if your house fits her little niche, she'd be a great person to, like, very trendy house, I guess you could say.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Renee is different because she's not like a big company like Dazzle or anything like that. Like Renee, it's just Renee.
Yeah.
And she only does staging for a handful of houses, however much she has capacity for at the time. So she's much more affordable because it's just her, but she does do a nice job with that heavier light staging. She's not going to probably stage your bedrooms and do a bigger staging like Dazzle or someone else, but
Right.
does a really nice job with, especially like a nice little house in Florissant that, has demand, and you want to make it look a little nicer to draw more people in, but you're going to sell it that same weekend. You don't need to do full on staging. She's great for stuff like that.
Yeah. Definitely.
But
cool.
anyone else have any other questions or thoughts before we wrap this call up this week?
Well, and just one last thing, everything aside, the bottom line profit for a first flip, that's amazing. I mean, you really accomplished something there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And now, too, we did a lot of that work ourselves. So, I mean, you spread that
Right.
out, what you make monthly, it's not necessarily a killing, if that were to be like my husband's income for, 3 months. But I think for the experience, it was all worth it. I would do it again. And we were happy with the profits, over exceeded our expectations, and had a lot of fun doing it too. So I think just getting past that first one, and now I feel like we could do a lot more. So thank you very much.
For a first time flip, that is an incredible profit. That is, and I know you put sweat equity in there, but
Lots of it, yeah.
that really is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. And it, but I think it's worth it. And if you got the ability to do it, if not, buy at a deeper discount and hope for, similar profits with a little bit heavier renovation costs. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Julie, thank you for sharing your story today. And thanks everyone else for hopping on our call. We'll be here again next Wednesday. I don't know if we're gonna have a case study next week.